Hey, how are you?
I'm doing really well. How about you folks?
We are great. I'm, you don't really need any introduction, honestly. Everyone, this is Katie. And if you don't know Katie, your life's about to change because she's amazing, our API security person of the year. Um, Katie, please take it away, right? Thank you for being here. We really love your talks.
Oh,
I'm
thank
so
you very
excited for
much.
this. I'm going to take myself off stage so I can be loud and excited.
All right. All yours, Katie.
Thank you. Well, it's a pleasure to be here once again with APISEC University. When Dan reached out and was like, "Oh, would you want to speak at APISEC Con again?" I was like, "Yeah." Let me get back to what I'm going to speak about though, because I have no idea. And I knew I wanted to do something around bug bounty hunting, so I kind of gave him that. It took me a while to actually decide what I wanted to talk about bug bounty hunting. And obviously, this intersects quite a lot with API hacking because a lot of folks get started with bug bounty hunting. And it's in a weird place right now. And I kind of just wanted to talk about it. So, this is going to be, you know, maybe some spicy takes. Okay, you might not agree with all of this, but that's totally fine. If you don't agree, tell me in the chat. So, hi everybody. If you're not sure who I am, my name is Dr. Katie. I am a security advocate at Semgrep. Semgrep make a SaaS program, and I have the best job in the world, like confirmed. My job is to go around and tell people why security matters. I don't even need to sell the product. I just get to talk about security, and all I need to sell you on is that security is good. But I actually got started in security through bug bounty hunting. So my background is I used to be a developer. I then was walking to work one day, and by the way, my developer job was good. I worked on some interesting problems. I was paid fairly well for being a brand new like person with no experience. And I was walking to work one day, and I was like, wow, I really hate my job. I'm going to quit and I'm going to go do a PhD. And it took me a while, even though my PhD was in cybersecurity, consider myself like a cybersecurity person. And it wasn't until I went to my first HackerOne event that I started to kind of shift my perspective and go, okay, I'm not just somebody who works in security, I am a security person. And the bug bounty community is really like near and dear to my heart because it's been such an important part of like my career. And this is kind of half eulogy maybe for bug bounty hunting. But let's start with what is bug bounty hunting. Now, if you've never heard of bug bounty hunting before, I'm sure probably everyone here has, because when I first did my first bug bounty hunting and I'd never heard of the concept, I knew nothing about it, but I'm sure you guys are much more well informed than I was when I found my first vulnerabilities. It's a pretty simple like economics, which is the companies will start programs where they ask hackers to hack on their software. And you can hack on companies that like are really big companies and also quite small companies as well. The idea is you find a security vulnerability, you report it to the company, and then they pay you a bounty, which kind of represents the, economic benefit for them not being hacked by an attacker. You find the vulnerabilities before the bad guys do. And for companies, this is a really, really attractive proposal because often the best hackers are not necessarily where your business is located. You can get the best hackers from all over the world to focus on your application, your product, your website, whatever you're building, and find the bugs that are really, really hard to find, that are easy to miss, that developers aren't aware of. And certainly there's this big and if anyone's heard of bug bounty hunting, you'll know that a lot of the rewards here and the way it's marketed is often financial. Meet the $1 million hackers. I received a $10,000 bounty. Here is, my P1 that I've submitted. And like, I will be honest, I'm doing this as well. Basically, anybody in bug bounty is talking about this because it's kind of where motivates people to get involved. Because if you sell bug bounty hunting as you sit for hours, try and find a vulnerability, find nothing, and go to bed, it's not as attractive as showing pictures of folks on private jets or with their fancy cars. And certainly the bug bounty community has changed a lot when I first got started, and that wasn't even that long ago. That was 2019 to where it's come to today. And quite a lot of that is driven by AI. But before we talk about AI, I want to talk a bit about the economics of bug bounty hunting. So in general, and certainly if you've already, and I can already see people in the chat, I can see Simon's message in the chat here, talking about finding a vulnerability and then getting paid nothing for it. Programs in bug bounty hunting are not necessarily incentivized to pay. A lot of the time, a lot of companies will look at reasons to reduce the bounty amount because most programs work in a budget and money is not infinite, right? They have to prioritize based on what the most the most dangerous bugs are. And really, they don't want low or medium vulnerabilities. They want high-end crits. And what happens from this is that programs don't necessarily feel like they need to compete for the best hackers by offering crazy rewards. And it's less about money for the top hackers and more about things like how easy the team is to work with. And then what we've seen over the past year, particularly with AI, is we've seen bounty amounts start to reduce. Though I say all of this, and Immunify, which is a bug bounty platform that is for Web3, announced their first $3 million bounty this week. So I say all of this. Maybe Web3 are the only ways where these economics work out. And there is a lot of reasons why programs don't want to pay. I'm going to tell you right now, as somebody who used to triage for these platforms, 90% of vulnerabilities were non-issues. They were people who were vulnerabilities that the client had explicitly told the platform, we do not consider this a vulnerability. There are situations where people complain on Twitter, and actually, when you actually go into their report, it's not at all like they've said it is on Twitter. There is quite a lot of people in the community kind of churning up rage a little bit. And if you look, my favorite website is bugbounty.forum, which links to your Bugcrowd and your HackerOne account and your Integrity account, and it will actually show. It's like Reddit, but it shows you how many bounties somebody has gotten, and the way that hackers who have maybe less than $10,000 in bounties talk about hacking versus the people that are making this their full-time job is very, very different. But there has always been this difficult economic situation, which is that fundamentally programs aren't really incentivized to pay hackers. And at the same time, we've seen AI dramatically increase massively. So if you're not aware of what AI slop is content that is solely produced by AI. For the most part, there's been no human in the loop, right? The human is the person pressing send, but the AI is doing all of the work. But because the human doesn't understand what the AI is doing, they're not influencing it in any way, they produce slop and they can't tell. So in 2023, when ChatGPT really first became available, Carl noticed a kind of small increase in the number of reports they were getting. These reports seemed legitimate, but when they went into them, they were complete nonsense. They used the function names and they pasted code in, but this code wasn't vulnerable. And essentially, because curl, while it does produce bounties, it does so through the Open Software Foundation, I think, OSF, and it does it essentially through a third party. The program itself is completely maintained by the maintainers of curl, the people who write the software, the free and open source software that they don't get paid to write. And it got to a point where they literally couldn't do it anymore. In fact, if you go to HackerOne, and one thing I found ridiculous was people on Twitter complaining about the curl program spamming the hacktivity. No. The curl program is spamming nothing, guys. The problem is you. They ended their bug bounty program this year. They said, we're done. Because if you look at this graph at the top left, here, the green is the confirmed vulnerabilities. In 2024 and 2025, the amount of actual vulnerabilities dramatically reduced. The amount of slop went massively up, and the amount of reports they had massive ups as well. And if you think this is unique to an open source platform, I can guarantee you it is not. I can guarantee that there are many organizations facing this same problem today. And while Curl was a community-based project, they weren't necessarily paying for the same triage services, because that does cost money when you run a bug bounty program. Other companies are going to have exactly the same thing. So remember when I said I worked at a bug bounty platform? That was before AI. And I was telling you that most of the reports I saw were absolute garbage. Now, there are even more ways to produce absolute garbage that you can't tell. And I love that Salah here has mentioned about Doggy G. I absolutely agree with what he's saying. You know, a lot of people are just putting AI. They've just sent a code base to OpenAI and said, please give me a vulnerability in this code. And that is just not how AI works. Now, at the same time, we have these AI slops. We have some actually really good AI. So AI tooling like Expo has been shown to be really good for security. Expo, if you're not aware, was one of the top hackers on HackerOne. The catch, it was completely AI. And there are a lot of agentic security researchers and projects that are being run by agentic AI pen testing companies that actually work. Even OpenAI has jumped on this and has started doing agentic security research as well. And with all of this, we're starting to see people talk about AI a lot more. Like, here's how I do AI in my workflows. And there are a lot of folks in bug bounty hunting who have like recon focused ways of hacking, right? I'm thinking like Jason Haddock's kind of level of automation in their hacking. And so this is really just a natural extension to what they're doing. But the problem is people are trying to copy it and they don't understand the AI. They're not these experienced security researchers. They're just giving it over to AI. And not to mention the fact that security budgets are often reactive, right? The security budgets will depend on what kind of incidents are happening. AI tools like Expo cost a lot of money. In fact, I was talking to somebody at an event and I mentioned Expo in my talk. He was like, oh, I spoke to Expo about doing a pen test and it was $4,000. And I'm like, I'm not paying $4,000 for this when I could do it myself for zero. A lot of people forget that the place we're in with AI at the moment, this is as cheap as AI is going to get. It is heavily, heavily subsidized at the moment, and it still costs too much. So when security teams want to invest in having more AI-driven stuff, they need to reduce their spend elsewhere. And I think this has had the effect of reducing the spend on bug bounty programs. So bounties for low-severity bugs go down because they just don't have the budget to pay for them. It's not necessarily the company has given up on bug bounty hunting, by the way. It is that they want to focus more on critical and high vulnerabilities that are likely to be exploited, not ones where if it is exploited, it is a lot less, if they are exploited, it's a lot less bad, right? And again, I'm not saying this to be like, you should give up on bug bounty hunting, blah, 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 or that I think bug bounty is over, because I don't think it 100% is. What I think is over right now is low-hanging fruit. The kind of easy bugs that I and everybody else recommends for beginners will be caught by other cheaper things like DAS, like APISEC, or SaaS, like Semgrep, or AI tooling that companies are investing in. And if you do find low-hanging fruit in the in the application you're testing, it's likely going to be a duplicate, right? Again, this is a change on not necessarily how companies, yeah, sorry about my dog. She is crying because she has not had food. And she would like food now. But essentially what this means for us as hackers is that those low-hanging fruit that honestly were great places for beginners to get started with simply don't exist. And if they do exist, it's going to be considered a non-issue. But bug bounty hunting, I don't think is 100% over. A lot of people will see all this stats and go, that's it, it's over, bug bounty is finished, I'm going to quit, I'm going to go. I don't think it's 100% over. The bug bounty market size is huge. The US, it's even bigger. Like the US has a massive bug bounty industry. It's something that AppSec teams have invested quite heavily in. And I don't think this kind of, bug bounty is over. There's no point learning how to do bug bounty. Anyone doing bug bounty hunting is dead. If you're not using AI, you are over. I don't think it's necessarily, because for the most part, budgets haven't actually decreased. If they have decreased, it is very small decreases. For the most part, budgets have either stayed the same or increased, right, in corporate cybersecurity programs. And when we looked at the previous slide where I showed the little pie chart showing how the budgets are often reactive to what's happening in the industry, what organizations from the CEO want from AppSec teams is to adopt things like AI. And the budget is higher, but again, like I said, it's competing with it now, right? So I don't think bug bounty is over. I don't think we are completely done. I think bug bounty is going to change a lot because we as hackers now need to focus on finding the bugs that AI can't and will never be able to find. So this is some research that I didn't do, that some of my colleagues did. They looked at a bunch of the AI models. They tried it on a bunch of vulnerabilities, like detecting vulnerabilities in code. So this is using code only. Again, Semgrep is a SaaS company. We read code. So our research team is focused on code. And they used a bunch of these different models to see and understand what the AI could find really reliably and what it couldn't find very reliably. And what they found was that for the most part, anything that requires kind of a deep contextual understanding of how an application works, not necessarily, an idle where it's as simple as, change the 1 to a 2. We're talking about idols where you've got competing authorization frameworks that come head to head with each other, or areas where in an API, you've got these multiple APIs coming together in these third-party dependencies. Those are the kind of bugs that if you want to do bug bounty hunting now, you want to look at. It's the complex bugs, the ones that require specialist knowledge, the business logic errors, the ones that are more than just AI can just do straight up the bat. And if you're expecting to go, well, I'm going to do this entire thing with AI, you're just as bad as the AI slop, because you will just end up being replaced. And I think what is going to change as well is really the kind of narrative around bug bounty people being bug bounty millionaires, learning a single vulnerability, spamming it everywhere, who work 1 hour a week, look at my cars, look at my sick cars, guys, I'm going to throw money around, is gone. But does that mean that bug bounty is over? I'm not so sure, because I'm going to be honest, the real moneymaker in cybersecurity is a full-time job. And I don't take my word for it. Look at every single person who is a top bounty hunter. There's quite a few folks who do it full-time. Monkey Hacks is a full-time, Res Zero, Rhinorator is full-time. There are a lot of folks who do it full-time. The vast majority of people who do Yeah, Douglas Day as well is also a full-time bug bounty hunter. The majority, though, of people participating in bug bounty programs who have at least some, experience and success. Maybe they're not making millions, but they're making a fairly good income. All have full-time jobs. Why do they have full-time jobs? Because for the most part, it's reliable income. It's not necessarily something where you will be caught out by AI immediately. And so I think for a lot of folks, what bug bounty offers is maybe not the dreams of becoming a bug bounty millionaire, but for like students, for career changers who want to get jobs in cybersecurity, I genuinely think bug bounty hunting is still one of the best ways to get experience in security and transition into a full-time job in AppSec or in kind of like SOC defense side. Because if you have no experience and you're struggling to get hired, it proves it. It's that social proof, right? That says, hey, I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. And while it may not be printing money for people anymore, fundamentally, that doesn't mean bug bounty hunting is over. And if you already have a job in security, one of the great things that bug bounty hunting can offer is an insight into what other companies are doing, what vulnerabilities are in other organizations, what kind of areas or applications they're focused on, how they're using AI, for example. And certainly, if you do want to print money, CTFs are great. There are a lot of CTFs that are incredibly competitive, which honestly can sometimes be harder than finding a bug in a bug bounty program anyway, that offer this kind of similar itch and similar prizes, but that aren't necessarily going to be full of AI. And I think to kind of summarize my thoughts here, I don't think bug bounty hunting is over. I think it has been changed massively. I think it has been changed, in my opinion, for the worse. I don't really like how AI is being used on things like people's reports are being trained. HackerOne released that today. But I do think bug bounty is still a really, really good place to start if you are trying to get a job in cybersecurity, because it will give you real world experience while you are still studying. It's like an internship. And I think that is fundamentally the way to think about bug bounty hunting in 2025. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm happy to answer Q's and A's.
Oh yeah. Holy cow, that was amazing as always, Katie. You know, it's a lot of that really resonated, and you can see all the appreciation coming in. Folks, we got a few minutes left. So if you got questions, this is a golden opportunity. But I have a few, Katie, right? And so many of your comments really resonated, right? Like the career change. We have a session later on today with Abraham, who he talks about how he started with one of our courses, and then he started putting those skills to work, like building his expertise, building those chops, and then translating that into work opportunities. So completely agree with that. And this there's actually a video I watched last night from Ads Dawson. I don't know if you know Ads, where it's an incredible video. I'll try to dig it up and share it, but it's a half an hour where they go through how somebody used Claude Code to do the entire kill chain, right? From recon to weaponization to blah, 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 right? The whole damn thing, right? And but at the end of it, Ads comes in. He's like, yeah, but this is it's impressive what they were doing, but there's still a level of sophistication that AI can't replace, right? Like there's a human creativity and connecting of dots that I don't know. Is that just a matter of time, Katie, or like these more sophisticated things? That's where the real value is, isn't it?
And that's what companies want. When companies sign up to do a bug bounty program, and this has always been the case, this is not brand new, has been because they want to get those complex bugs, the kind of bugs that only a human can find, the kind of weird connection of technology, and we see a bunch in APIs as well, right? Like for the most part, a bunch of API security vulnerabilities are very like especially the notable ones, end up being these combination of factors that go on top of each other, these third-party APIs that are talking to each other, and it ends up being like where we shine as humans is in that. What I will say, and I've noticed a lot of people are talking in the chat about using AI. This might be controversial. You know what? If you want to say that I'm completely wrong, I'm happy to take that criticism. You will not be able to out AI the AI people at the moment. They are spending hundreds of dollars on AI. I saw somebody on Twitter who had set up Claudebot, or OpenClaw as it's called now, and they spent $20 on like a single reminder because it was polling. And this amount of like resources to just throw away and throw money onto a fire, most people, you cannot keep up with it, especially when a lot of the people doing this are companies that have VC backers that have a lot of money. Can you replicate some of that yourself? Potentially, yeah, you can probably do it independently. And there are some open source projects, but you are going to be competing with people with deep pockets and who are happy to burn hundreds and thousands of tokens at a rate where you couldn't imagine it. So that's
we have our speaker Abraham asking the question: will AI ever be in a place where they can take that contextual knowledge of an app and use that to identify business logic bugs?
Maybe. I don't know. So my take on it is probably not, because just in how AI at the moment works, versus like, I mean, if the modality of how we use AI and how we train models and changes massively, bearing in mind that before there were LLMs, there were neural networks, right? Before there were neural networks, there were, like hundreds of different ways of doing AI, right? And that have gotten slowly better and better and better. If you asked me as a student in AI in, when I started university and when I finished university in like 2016 or whatever, I would tell you that LLMs would never be possible. And here we are, not that long ago later, saying actually, this is, and so it could change completely. It really could do. It really could change. But with the current LLMs, I don't see it being possible just because of how they work.
Well, and Ewan makes the point, right? AI is an answering machine. You ask it the right questions, you get the right answers.
You get a answer. Do you get the right answer?
Yeah, fair, right? And it's just a prediction engine, right? It's like, if this was the last word, what's the likely next word, right? And so I do wonder, right? Like, there's all these visionaries who are saying like, oh, eventually it can do everything. It can think and be creative, and it can write masterpieces, and it can do all these things. But like, to Ads' point in that video, like at some point there is a human element, a human creativity that it doesn't yet replicate,
Well, the other thing we're looking at as well is that basically we cannot train AI on new data, because what happens if you train AI on AI is it gets like really bad. It degrades significantly. Any data that we feed AI after 2023 is full of AI generated content, and it's going to be really hard for the next set of training data to be able to like.
I wonder if we're entering a new dark ages, right? The dumbification of society, where like, everything is just AI generated. If I have to send an email,
well, that's where we're at. That's it. Like, you can't get, I mean, as somebody who doesn't really use AI a lot in my own life, there's so much slop.
All right, Katie, I'm sad to say we're up against time. It always goes way too fast. Thank you for everything you do. There's a lot of love for you in this chat. Hopefully you saw that. But thanks again.